The rain tapped gently against the tall windows of Ashford Academy, the most prestigious school in London. Inside its hallowed halls, portraits of past scholars lined the walls, each face telling a story of triumph and brilliance. But for Eleanor Whitmore, daughter of one of Britain's most powerful billionaires, those portraits felt like silent judges, reminding her of her failures. Despite her wealth, her expensive tutors, and the endless resources her family poured into her education, Eleanor couldn't seem to pass her exams. Every time her papers were returned, red marks painted across the page, her chest tightened with shame. Her father's voice echoed in her head, "Whitmores don't fail. Ever." And yet, she did. Again and again. On a gray Monday afternoon, Eleanor sat alone in the library, staring blankly at equations she couldn't solve. Tears blurred the ink. Around her, classmates whispered. To them, she was the spoiled billionaire's daughter who had everything, except brains. That's when she noticed someone sitting across from her. A boy with messy brown hair, wearing a uniform slightly too big for his frame. His shoes were scuffed, his tie loosened. He was quiet, yet his eyes, clear, steady, watched her struggle with a gentleness no one else ever had. "You're holding the pen too tightly," he said softly. Eleanor blinked. "Excuse me." "The way you're gripping it," he explained, smiling faintly. "It makes your hands stiff. Writing becomes harder when you fight the paper." Embarrassed, Eleanor muttered, "And you're an expert, I suppose?" The boy shrugged. "Not really. But I like maths. I can help, if you want." She almost laughed. Who was he to offer help? She had the finest tutors in London. But then she remembered their polished accents, their cold correction, and the way they treated her as if she were hopeless. This boy's voice carried no judgment, only sincerity. "What's your name?" she asked. "Oliver," he said simply. And that was how it began. Every afternoon after classes, Eleanor and Oliver sat in the back corner of the library. He never made her feel foolish for asking questions. He broke down problems into pieces, showing her patterns instead of demanding answers. When she grew frustrated, he told her stories of how he used to help his younger siblings learn, using chalk on the pavement outside their flat in East London. One day, Eleanor asked him bluntly, "Why are you even here? Ashford isn't exactly affordable." Oliver's gaze lowered. "Scholarship. My mum cleans houses. My dad's gone. We get by." Her throat tightened. She lived in a mansion, while he lived in a cramped flat. Yet here he was, patient, kind, brilliant. Weeks passed. Slowly, the red marks on Eleanor's papers turned to ticks of approval. Her teachers noticed. Her father, too busy with business meetings, barely did. But Oliver did. "You're getting better," he said one evening, sliding her graded paper across the table. "See? 72. That's a pass." Eleanor's face lit up, a feeling of pride flooding her chest. "I couldn't have done it without you." But just as life seemed to shift, a cruel reality intruded. Ashford Academy announced its annual scholarship fund, one chance for struggling students to secure full tuition. Eleanor overheard two teachers whispering, Oliver was the top contender. Yet the Whitmores were major donors. A conflict of interest. If Eleanor continued to fail, her father would pressure the board to adjust results to protect their family's reputation. The realization hit Eleanor like ice: if she failed again, Oliver's chance might vanish. On the morning of exams, her hands shook. She thought of Oliver's family, his sacrifices, his quiet dignity. He had given her patience, hope, and belief. Now, she could give something back. When the results were announced, Eleanor's name wasn't among the highest scores. She had passed, but just barely. Oliver, however, topped the entire class. The scholarship was his. That evening, in the quiet of the library, Eleanor finally confessed. I could have done better. But I didn't, because you deserve it more. Oliver stared at her, stunned. You held back. For me. Tears pricked her eyes. You taught me something money can't buy. Kindness. Patience. Belief. I can live without perfect grades. But your family needs this chance more than mine ever will. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, with a trembling smile, he whispered, "Thank you." Years later, the world would see their names again, this time in headlines. Eleanor Whitmore, now a philanthropist, launched a foundation funding education for underprivileged children across the UK. And Oliver? He became one of the nation's leading educators, shaping young minds with the same compassion he once showed a struggling girl. At the grand opening of a new learning centre in East London, Eleanor stood on stage. The crowd applauded as she introduced the head of the program, Dr. Oliver Hughes. Their eyes met, and in that moment, they both remembered the library table, the red-marked papers, and the act of quiet sacrifice that changed two lives forever. Sometimes, the greatest wealth isn't found in what you own, but in the kindness you give.